There's this book I read. It's called Outliers. I think it's by Malcolm Gladwell, and he talks about like people that are successful, like outliers, right? Kind of above average or whatever, right? And he talked about all these factors on why people are successful, and he used the example, for instance, was hockey players, right? Like, why are these hockey players so successful? And it turns out that like a bunch of them.
Howdy, folks. Brian Cusco here, and today we're going to talk with Tyler Kirk. Tyler has a company called the Spider Shoppe that has gone from being, as a lot of these companies do, a small thing into a big actual physical thing. And we're going to hear a lot of Tyler's journey about how he got to where he's at today, being actually, he didn't even know this, but the #1 shipper of invertebrates in the country. And that's pretty big. And Tyler's a really cool dude and very humble about that. I don't think he even realized that he's #1. So we're going to sit down with Tyler, hear a bit of his story. Thank you for watching Redline Report. I thought she was waving at me. How long have you been working with animals?
Animals. It seems to me like compared to some of the people here, like relatively short, you know. I mean, I had dogs and cats since I was young, you know. I think I had my first corn snake, it must have been like 9th grade. I had a couple of them, and never, like, breeding was not even on my mind. I didn't even know like things like this existed at that point, you know. It's just going in my pet store, and I remember like getting the corn snake out of the tank in the pet store and being afraid to hold the corn snake. It's funny to think about it think back now, right? Like, just my perception on animals or snakes at that time, right? And after that, like, I had a period of my life where I was really irresponsible, made a lot of bad decisions. Like, animals was not an option, you know. I think we had like pit bulls or something, right? Made a big change in my life, and that's when animals became an interest to me.
How old were you when that change took place?
Well, 22 years old. Identify as like recovering addict, you know. So been clean now over 11 years.
Congratulations, dude.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was a significant, you know, impact on my life, you know. First, well, you both using and getting clean, but I got clean and was like looking for a hobby, you know. And I was actually visiting my brother-in-law. They lived in an apartment complex at the time, and there happened to be this like 10-gallon aquarium next to the dumpster. And I figured, I'll clean it up and take it home and use it. And so that's what I did. And we went to the pet store, and what I decided to take home was a pink-toed tarantula. I don't know anything about them.
Out of all the animals there, do you recall why you decided on that animal?
You know, I think I was really drawn to tarantulas initially because of kind of like the shock value. You know, kind of like, here's a tarantula, and most of the people would kind of like revolt, I guess. And I don't know why I was drawn to an animal like that. I think maybe almost I even like identified with that as like maybe people responding to me the same way that they'd respond to a tarantula. You know, not so much anymore, I don't think. But at that point, you know, I didn't know anything about it. And then I started doing research after I took it home and saw just the variety of different tarantulas, you know, the different colors and behaviors, and all that really intrigued me. And so soon realized that tarantulas for me was like a collecting thing. It's really easy with tarantulas, you know, they're such minimal care that you can keep 20 or 30 and care for them, you know, no problem. Because they only need to eat maybe once a week or water once a week. So really low maintenance animal. And yeah, I remember like when I was a kid, you know, Pokemon was a thing. It almost was like like another generation of Pokemon. Like, I got this one, and I know I'm kind of getting carried away here with what you asked, but
no. This is what the answer that I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's I found a guy on YouTube, or not on YouTube, excuse me, Craigslist that was local to me that had these a bunch of tarantulas for sale, and so he invited me over to his house to pick up this tarantula I wanted. And I walked into this guy's house or his apartment, and his living room and his kitchen counter, or his dining room, or kitchen counters, were covered like stacks of tarantulas, shelves of tarantulas, like hundreds. And I just thought, like, what a kind of weirdo, like, right? It was my thoughts, like, oh my God, like, I've never seen anything like this. And but he's been like monumental or pivotal in my tarantula journey. And he taught me all kinds of stuff, taught me everything about tarantulas, taught me how to breed tarantulas. And so really like, Steve Dowd, is his name, huge impact on my life. I feel like I'm just rambling on, but...
No. I asked, this is great. I mean, my hope when I ask a question is that I'm going to get stuff and you're going to tell me things. So don't worry about that. This is, I'm not here to tell you things. I'm here to hear what it is that you have to tell me.
Oh.
That's the point of this. So the only reason I speak is if you feel like you're not being heard at any point, and I need to prompt you to like let you know that I'm listening. And I'm only listening if you have something that you just want to say. So don't feel like you're rambling.
Yeah,
It's not that.
Cool.
It's if you're talking, I'm listening, and I'm not like, oh, when is this guy gonna shut up? I'm like, yes, give me more.
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing over here.
Yeah, I guess, good to check in, make sure there's still something, a lot of people do ask me, like, how'd you get into tarantula? How'd you get into it? So, might be worthwhile story for the people that might be watching this, to hear about how my journey started into keeping and selling and...
Yeah, so what was that? So obviously you felt that connection with the tarantula. You ended up running into a guy who just like, that's kind of funny because I had a similar story when I was 4 as far as the way you were describing that room and the houses and the stuff on counters and stuff. Like I had a very, very, very similar thing with that. He didn't end up becoming my mentor, but just seeing, I was only 4, but just seeing the way his house was, I was like, whoa, Dad, can we do this? And so there's that connection there for me. But then also he taught you got into breeding tarantulas, learned from him, started collecting like Pokemon, all the different animals. How did you go from there to a business? And then even, was the business first? Or because I know you have a shop now, like an actual shop, a store, physical brick and mortar store, which is amazing. So was the business first? Was the shop first? Which came first, and how did all that come about?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So learning how to breed, back up to there, minimal collection of adult females. And there was this Facebook group for tarantulas called Spinder, like Tinder for spiders, Spinder. And so people would go on there and post like, hey, I have this mature male, and or you could go on there and offer them a trade, buy, right? And so I'd go on there and I'd do like the control search function, and I'd search for whoever, like whatever mature male I needed. Tried a lot. Yeah. Was always eager to jump in and try the breeding thing. I know a lot of people I talk to really hesitant, like, oh, I couldn't handle 100 babies. Like, I don't even want to try,
It does sound like a lot.
I guess. I mean, I never hesitated. It seemed like a cool thing to just witness and to be a part of. Of course, there was the financial aspect to it, right? I witnessed Steve breeding and trading and selling, and at the time, it was like strictly like, okay, I can support my hobby by breeding spiders. I had enough success, I guess, I'd breed and sell the babies to the wholesaler. There's a huge wholesaler in the Pacific Northwest that is part of my story, is probably a big reason why I've done as well. Maybe had advantage for knowing this guy, right? And so sold him spiderlings, and so had a relationship with the wholesaler right away where I didn't have a business, but I knew the wholesaler. I toured the wholesaler's facilities, and so was making like connections like that pretty early on. Yeah, all my bred spiderlings, like I would turn around and buy more adult females and buy more males. Everything kind of got like reinvested into the tarantula stock. And it went from like a shelf, 3-tier shelf to what is now my daughter's bedroom, and then my daughter was born, so then I fit everything in the hallway closet, and then I insulated my garage. I went and bought insulation, climbed in my attic and insulated the ceiling in my garage. I got into the walls and put insulation in the walls for my garage. Then had my garage built out for like a spider room, and still was like breeding. I think I had like almost 100 egg sacs in 2020 or 2021. Of course, those all didn't like pan out; they weren't all fertile or viable, right? But a lot of breeding, and it was like my main focus, And at the time, I was doing substance use counseling. It's kind of what I got into, a couple of years after getting clean, was go to school for substance use counseling. I was working at a methadone clinic and selling these, what I bred, and decided, like, why don't I take the risk on opening an online store and just putting on there what I have anyways. And 3 months later, I had more sales on the online store than I made at my job, right? So it just made sense to move on.
So were you selling spiders to people at the methadone clinic?
No.
No, okay.
No,
You're selling spiders while also working there.
Yeah, just, online, like Facebook, putting out a list, local, right? The online took off right away, and I don't really know what the factors are really, like I've tried to make new businesses online. I did a reptile, like I was going to drop ship reptiles from a wholesaler. I was going to do this gecko thing, and none of them took off like Spider Shoppe did, and I can't really say why. I put thousands of dollars of advertising into those, and it didn't take off. So I'm not really sure. I think I had somewhat of a reputation before the business started. I was, I didn't rip anybody off in the hobby. I didn't send people the wrong things. I was honest. When people would send me their mail for breeding, I would send babies back, So I think I had a decent enough reputation that when my business started, people were like, yeah, you can, it's a safe bet. You can buy from Spider Shoppe. There's this book I read. It's called Outliers. I think it's by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about, like, people that are successful, like outliers, right? Kind of above average or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about all these factors on why people are successful. And he used the example, for instance, was hockey players, right? Like, why are these hockey players so successful? And it turns out that, like, a bunch of them have birthdays in the same month. And it's because when they were, playing pee-wee hockey, they were the biggest hockey players in their age group because they had a birthday in a certain month. So back 5 years old playing hockey, they had an advantage, right? Just because of when they were born. So, there's definitely a lot of hard work and a lot of skill and a lot of talent maybe that goes into the business. But at the same time, there's definitely a lot of luck. There's a lot of coincidence. There's a lot of support from others. There's a lot of just stuff that I couldn't have planned out for myself, And, just really grateful for... Sorry.
No, man, it's awesome. How did it lead to a store? Like, because you got a successful online business, and like to open a physical shop is, in my opinion, a huge jump. There's lots of people that put stuff online and they have online businesses. When it comes to animal stuff, like to have a physical store is, again, like I said, just to repeat myself, seems to me like a much larger endeavor.
Yeah, the store was an interest for a year probably before we actually got in somewhere. I'd been looking in the area for commercial space that would, be number one, like within our budget, right? And also somewhere that got a lot of traffic. I also wanted, the storefront to serve as like our shop, spider room, right? I moved all the spiders out of the garage and they're at the shop now. So I wanted it partitioned, 2/3 or 3/4 storefront, and then the back end, the workspace. And so it took a while to find something that fit all of those requirements. But by the time the store was going, I mean, we had, enough income going from the online store that I think it cost like $20,000 to, do the security payment or whatever, the first 2 months payment, and put in, we remodeled the space, we painted, we put in new hardwood floor, we tore out the old subfloor, all this stuff, right? New shelving, glass cabinets, all brand new. And so it's a significant cost, but the online store made that possible. The online store currently brings in about 30% of our sales, our revenue. It's not huge, really. I mean, it's awesome that I get to have somewhere where people could come in and enjoy the animals. We try to have, like, our main thing is tarantulas, but our displays, we have some really cool stuff, almost like zoo quality animals, and it's not a big space, but there's enough room in there for some cool stuff, and it circulates well enough that people could come in and see some just, like we have a leucistic boa in there right now. We have one of those Nephurus asper, the Australian little gecko. So we're talking about $1,000 animals that some people walk in and they're like, what? Like, I don't even know what it is, and that's fine too. But of course, I wish I could appreciate it for what it is. But that's fine. That's all right. We just got a caiman lizard in this big display, and we've got a green tree monitor, right? So just things that people don't normally get to see, and man, the oohs and ahs from the kids, dude, it's just like priceless. And so it's awesome that we get to one, kind of lend some more credibility to the online business. Two, have a place to work. It's not in my house. A place that my employees can clock in, clock out, have a key, and it's not my house. And also, like, just kind of share, the passion. And people drive, like in our area, there's a couple other reptile stores, but it's hour south, hour north. And so people needed a place. There was a previous shop that had closed down after COVID. And I was really kind of thinking about, like, why? Is that a good sign for us that they're not going to be around? Is it a bad sign that they closed? Is it not enough business? And I had reached out to one of the wholesalers in the area, or actually it was a delivery driver. And he told me, dude, all they get is dog food. Like, that's like the majority of their deliveries is like this name brand expensive dog food. And so he suggested that it just was like the selection or like what they offer.
Reptile shop that sells dog food.
Well, yeah, it was like a pet store, I guess.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it was, but they had, I never even had been there, but they sold, feeders and there's another guy I knew in California had a shop that said that the feeders paid the rent, which is not the case in our situation. The feeders, we barely break even on feeders, but keeps people going in the store. We do we do 10-cent crickets instead of 17 cents like Petco. And like people from Petco come to our store to shop. The shop's cool. It's been a year now that we've been open. There's a lot of problems with the city, and on my part, I made the mistake of not putting in the application early enough. I didn't know what a lengthy process, showing floor plans and getting the fire department out there, and they didn't like our electricity. We had daisy chain, power cords, like trying to power everything, and that wasn't flying. I had a cord hanging from the ceiling that wasn't gonna fly. But yeah, man, the last thing, this guy came in for the inspection, and he's like, "Oh, you need a max occupancy permit." And you just need this paper sign on the wall that says max occupancy, whatever it is, 20 or something. And I said, "Okay, well, I can put that up." And he's like, "Nope, I'll be back next week." So, so it was like 4 months of paying rent before we could even open the store.
Dang.
Yeah, I joked with one of my employees about like that's what we do is we don't sell animals, we just essentially jump through hoops. Yeah, we solve problems. Like that's what I told him. Like,
well, that's a good way to look at it. I think that anytime you're doing anything that's an endeavor and not just a thing that you're doing, it's figuring out how to get through those different hoops you need to jump through. And it's problem solving. If you're not a problem solving, I don't think you would be successful. You have to be a problem solver. You have to be able to recognize what the problem is and what the quickest way is to fix it and make it happen. Otherwise, you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
I can tell that it's a lot for you, and that it means a lot to you, and that you have this great gratitude for the place that you're at from it. It's cool to see. Like, it's almost like overwhelming for you how like grateful you are for where you're at.
Yeah, it's still really surreal, I enjoy what I do, and to see people just like recognize me or wearing the Spider Shop shirt here, and and to be here with you, and to just rub shoulders with some of the people that have been doing this for years and years. I'm still like new. I'm new to this. Like,
me too.
Yeah, but the problem thing, like, I'm grateful for all the problems, because this is what separates us from the people that wouldn't be willing to deal with all the problems. So if it was easier, there'd be more competition. If it wasn't so complicated, with the imports and, employees that artificial, like, it's a huge realm of stuff that, you have to juggle. But yeah, it's like thankful for the problems because it's like there's opportunity with all the problems.
Yeah. It's a very healthy mindset there. It's, a lot of people see that, just like we're talking about. People see problems and they're just like, oh, collapse and just like, oh. I mean, it's really a more rare mindset these days, I think, to be grateful for your problems, dude. It doesn't seem to be the culture at the moment.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not always, optimistic
Sure.
and cheerful, and I have like emotional distress and insecurity and uncertainty, right? But yeah, I kind of almost question the discussion about the recovering addict part. I mean, all throughout my career, whatever, I've wondered how personal to be with just publicly or with customers, right? How much do I engage on Facebook with different conversations? Do I take a stance on this or that, right? It's always been a point of uncertainty, right? What's the best thing for the business ultimately? I got to talk to some vendors about that actually this weekend, which is cool to hear some of their perspective. But back to the addict thing, yeah, it's like for those that might be dealing with addiction, right? It's like they might not realize that like they have a resume when they get clean. Like people that use drugs are persistent, they're perseverant, they're like courageous, like all these, like it sounds like wild, right? Like you think of somebody going in and out of jail and homeless and resourceful. Like there's all these things that like it was really a shameful experience, and I like hurt people and lost trust, and but it's almost hard to say that I regret that experience because there's some good that came out of it at least, and I think it has an impact on my perseverance and my dedication, the good things. So it's kind of crazy maybe to think back like, oh, like I was a heroin junkie and like don't recommend it, but just the ability, the willingness to solve problems, or the ability or the tenacity, stuff like that, I think is really, for me, been influenced by some of the horror that I had to, endure, which, what do you call it?
Self-inflicted?
Self-inflicted, thank you, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, been there, man. Been there. So I can relate. And that's why when somebody asks me how it's going, even if it's not going very well at the moment, my immediate response is, had worse. Had worse. We're doing pretty good right now.
Yeah. That's heavily part of my identity. It's kind of hard to be authentic without bringing that kind of thing up.
Yeah, well, authenticity is what we're all about here, man. So thanks for being willing to bring it up and be honest about it. So,
yeah, so it's been a pleasure being here and meeting people that I've known online and seeing different people that, that I've watched on YouTube. And
so where do you want to go next?
Where do I want to go? Like business goals, travel plans?
Yes. It's a general question. However you want to answer that question, there's not a wrong direction to go.
Yeah, I actually just mentioned to my partner, my wife, we're not really married, but long-term partner, that hey, like I realized I don't have any goals this year. Like I haven't written any goals, and last year it was do a CITES import, and so I did that a couple times. Mexican brachypelma CITES. CITES are I'm sure a lot of your people are familiar with it, but Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. There's just a little bit more paperwork that has to be done. You got to find somebody that's willing to set aside your animals and go through the paperwork process, and I couldn't find that right away. So that was my goal last year, and this year I'm debating a bigger store. I'm wondering if more space and more product would equate to more sales, but I don't necessarily want to deal with fish. I don't want to do mammals. So a bigger store would probably just mean more reptiles and more display, more for people to see. Things like, we sell plants, right? So things like maybe plant lights, which we don't sell now. So the first thing would be to, get a list of potential things that we would sell, right? Have that plan for what are we going to sell before we move into the space. I'd also like to do CITES Basilotheria, which are Indian ornamental tarantulas, the big arboreal, really pretty pattern, blue, and that's been tough. I got actually some CITES applications in Poland right now to bring these over, but it's been, 4 to 6 weeks, which isn't unusual. I don't really have any control over it. It's kind of just waiting. So I'd like to see that happen. It would be great to be able to supply, bring those to supply the U.S. market with some of these Basilotheria. They're a hot, popular spider species, or genus. We went to Ecuador last year, and I kind of had hopes of maybe meeting somebody or making some acquaintance that could maybe, do some kind of animal export, import, which didn't happen. And going to Peru in June, which has just been another awesome, blessing of what I've been doing, is the ability to do some of this stuff. I speak some Spanish. I'm comfortable. I like the Latin culture, love the food. And then of course the animals, right? To be able to. And then I was in Chile last month, getting these rose hair tarantulas to come up out of their burrows, and then holding it, and then letting it go back in, and then going 20 feet over and getting another one out. It was just surreal. And so Peru's gonna be the same thing. We actually have this American there who's doing tours, Andes to Amazon. You can find that on Google. It's a guy named Josh. He's been living there 10 years. He works with taxonomists in arachnology. And so the same places that he took them and worked with them, we're going to go. So pretty promising, some high elevation species, some rare stuff that's not in the hobby. And we're having discussions about setting up export, import from Peru, which would be really cool. It's interesting how it works, right? You got to have a space there. So we have to have a house or a facility where we bring the animals to, and the wildlife authorities go there, inspect the stuff, and so it's a different process than here. You got to have some kind of storehouse, and of course, all legal, right? We want to do legal. So there's a certain list of species that are available. They put out every year, what you can hunt. But there's other ways too, where, and then back to the problems, right? Let's try to figure it out. So you can do these population studies, and if the government approves, on the results of the population study, they can give you permission to bring those animals out. And so you might be the only person that can legally bring those out at that time, which could be, of course, commercially advantageous. So we're just trying to figure out, what responsibilities, what my responsibilities could be financially, what I have to do, and then versus his responsibilities. So that's something we're sorting, just beginning to talk about. There's a lot of ideas.
Yeah,
There's
man.
a lot of,
got a lot going.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that doesn't pan out,
Sure.
But
you keep putting stuff out there, that's when something lands.
Yeah. So you asked where I'm going. So that's my future right now.
Cool, man. It's looking bright. It's looking bright, man. That's awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you coming and sitting down and talking and sharing with us today, dude.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, dude. Where can people follow you and anything that's going on with you guys over the Spider Shop? Where can people go to do that?
Yeah. www.spidershoppe.com. Shop is spelled SHOPPE. So spidershoppe.com. Also, I'm on Instagram, spider_shop. Same thing, SHOPPE, Spider Shop. Spider_shop. And of course, we're on Facebook too, Spider Shop, same. I think our actual tag is The Spider Shop on Facebook, all one word. Social media has been another thing I'm interested in now. I've got the social media manager. I'm planning posts. So I was here walking around and one of my posts went on, because I had previously scheduled it. And so just trying to be consistent with the posting, try to give people relevant information, interesting stuff, right? Maybe do some more photography or more videos. I would love to document the Peru trip.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah.
It'd be epic.
Yeah, so I was actually curious to ask you, about your data management, essentially, like your memory, like how are you, I guess, what's your process,
It's delicate. There's a lot.
How many gigs of storage did you bring with you? Been doing this all day.
There's just some massive cards in there, I'll tell you that. And then I've got external hard drives up the wazoo. I've actually got snake racks full of external hard drives.
Wow. Yeah, I did audiovisual in high school. I always wanted to be involved in video production, and just,
Yeah, it's fun. I love it.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on, bro. Appreciate you, bro. Seriously. Well, you guys heard all the socials there. If you want to follow Tyler on his journey, well, go find him on his socials. And I'm hoping this summer to be able to get out to his neck of the woods and check out his shop in person and do some filming there. So look forward to that potentially on our vlog channel. Thank you guys always for watching here at Redline Report, and we'll see you on the next video next week. Y'all take care. It's funny that this has been a consistent theme. It happens a lot, which is somebody tells me, they might be a little nervous and they might not be. And I don't know if it's just, I will say that some of it probably is just me, but it seems to be consistent that I get that a lot. And then some of those folks like yourself end up being more willing to share once we actually sit down and just open up. And I know that, for myself at least, that throughout my life it's been a common theme as well. People will sit down with me, I've never told anybody this, but and it's not with cameras going, just stuff for whatever reason, whatever God gave me in my being, there's some kind of aura where people are I could tell this guy this thing.
Yeah.
And that's just,
it
works out.
Yeah, you're really inviting. The open-ended questions for interviewing is, I did, study counseling, so, you exhibit some of the same things a counselor should, right?
I don't know where that came from. It's not something I worked on.
Yeah. Talent.
You want to be that far from the mic, basically a
testing. Testing.
You only want to be able to fit a fist between your mouth and the mic, basically. And you can get closer if you want to, but if you get back here, it gets really kind of hard to hear. But I hadn't done it at all yet. I've done so many. I've put that mic on so many people, and I haven't. Hey, I left my mic on your shirt. No, but I didn't want to. I just realized that that's what I might be doing is listening to your conversations. I'd rather have you just bring it back over, so I don't do that. The first time I did these interviews was at the Super Show when I ran around, and instead of having this set up here like this, I basically took this and went around to people's booths, and then I didn't. I had this little audio recorder that connected to my. I was just telling you about this already.
Yeah, you're good.
And that's how that happens.